Hey everyone, my name is Dante and welcome back to Story Hub, your hub for the best stories on Reddit. For context, I've been married to my wife for about 10 years and we're a mixed-race couple. I'm Asian and she's Caucasian. I've gotten along with her family, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, but I always felt like her father-in-law and other sister-in-law, Sarah, never liked me. I'm a professionally trained chef with 15 plus years of experience and I work at a high-end Chinese restaurant, a spin-off of a popular one in Beijing, in a large US city. My crew and I have won several awards, and I've been explicitly told I'll be the next executive chef. Sarah is also a professionally trained chef and works at a popular upscale French restaurant in the city. She constantly brags about it and, no joke, compares herself out loud to Ramsay and Bourdain. Whenever I'm at my mother-in-law and father-in-law's house and helping out in the kitchen, Sarah is always criticizing everything I do. Whether it's chopping, braising, marinating, etc. She always butts in with comments like I think you should actually do X like this. I've been patient with my wife and sidestepped those comments, saying things like thanks, but I think I'll stick to the way I do it. Things came to a head 2 weeks ago when my wife, father-in-law, mother-in-law, and I were in her parents' kitchen preparing dinner for my mother-in-law's birthday. We were running a bit behind so things were heated, which I kind of liked because it reminded me of work, and that's when Sarah walked in. She took one look at what I was doing, scoffed, and said something like, "Oh wow, okay, so that's not the right way of doing things." It hit a nerve and I pretty sternly told her to stop criticizing my cooking and that I'm also a chef like her. She laughed and said making kung pao chicken at some Chinese restaurant doesn't count. The kitchen went silent, father-in-law snorted, chuckled, and my mother-in-law yelled, "Sarah, what is wrong with you?" I stopped what I was doing, swore at her and called her a racist piece of shit, apologized to my mother-in-law for not being able to stay, and left for home with my wife. Apparently this caused a massive fight after we left, with my MIL, BIL, other sister-in-law taking my side and my FIL, Sarah saying it was a joke but kind of true and that I was being too sensitive. The extended family somehow got wind of this and now everyone is arguing and taking sides, with my wife even getting texts from some of her cousins apologizing for Sarah's behavior. Despite being on my side, my wife is begging me to apologize so that the fighting will stop, but I refuse to because frick Sarah and her blatant racism. Am I an idiot? Update 1. My wife has also informed me that now Sarah may be in trouble at work and she's blaming me for it. Apparently one of her co-workers heard her rant about what happened and reported it to management. Edit. To clarify, Sarah is blaming me, though my wife is partly blaming me. Update 2. So it looks like one of my wife's cousins found this post and put it on Sarah's Facebook wall going, "This is you, right?" Her FB friends are starting to comment with things like, "If this is you, Sarah, then I'm disappointed." I think Sarah's still at work. Shop might be hitting the fan soon and now my wife is pissed too. We'll try to update but might have to delete posts if things go nuclear. Update 3. Was considering removing it but I just got a voicemail from my father-in-law that presence was only being tolerated up until this point and threatened a world of hurt if I didn't delete this post. Officially going to keep this post up, and if you're still reading this, Doug, I'm very disappointed in you. You're better than this. We'll also continue to update and thanks again for all your support, folks. Update 4. Lots of stuff just went down. 1. My wife got a call from my sister-in-law. From the wife's paraphrasing, Sarah started screaming, crying at her the moment my wife picked up and said that she just got demoted because of husband. Apparently some of her co-workers have her on FB and showed the post to management, which combined with her earlier rant, double whammed her back to being a line cook and now she might get fired. My wife told her to go frick herself and is now solidly on my side after taking the verbal abuse from Sarah and reading some of the comments here. My wife is still the opposite of happy though. 2. Wife called mother-in-law and asked her WTF was going on with the father-in-law. My mother-in-law was confused so my wife played back the voicemail I had on my phone and apparently my mother-in-law literally just walked away from the phone without hanging up and started screaming at my father-in-law. 3. Facebook post has now devolved into a clusterfuck flame war with family and friends jumping in. Suffice to say, it has officially gone nuclear. Update 5. Father-in-law, Akadug. Apparently my mother-in-law and father-in-law were already having trouble in their marriage, and it was only made worse with a certain 2016 presidential election. She's a Dem, and he had apparently gone more far-right since then. Seems that a line was crossed with the Kung Pao incident and his voicemail. When he refused to apologize for anything, typical Doug, she asked for a divorce and he went berserk. She didn't feel safe there, so that's when she came over. Other brother-in-law and sister-in-law live out of town. Extended family. Back of the Great FB War of 2021. You may have been able to tell already, but the extended family was largely arguing, fighting, divided along political lines for a few years now, and my cousin's FB post was likely just the light to set off the powder keg. According to my mother-in-law, the fallout has allegedly already led to some breakups, excommunication of some family members, and even an argument that ended with police involvement. Haven't verified this myself though. Sarah, sister-in-law. According to my mother-in-law, Sarah came over to her place on Friday. The writing was on the wall and she was basically forced to quit. Despite her trying to start from scratch as a line cook, the entire staff turned against her. Nothing was coming back from the dish pit for her and she was getting the cold shoulder. She's a great chef, I will admit this is true, but they took no chances since it turns out, shoot you not, they're partly owned by a Chinese investment company. Found this hard to believe and didn't want to add this detail, but it turned out to be true after some research. Won't say any further for privacy. Word also got around in the local industry, and Sarah is essentially blacklisted from high-end establishments. She's now considering selling her home and moving to find work. As much as I don't like her and found her behavior horrifying, I didn't intend for this to happen, so I've reached out to some buds in other states to see if they had any openings. Whether or not she wants to take it is up to her, and no, she has not apologized for anything either, but I still want to be a decent person to her. It sure as hell doesn't feel like a happy ending. Perhaps bittersweet justice, but that's all I can give you. Thank you all for your support and for reading. Not an idiot. Cooking Asian food doesn't count as cooking is racist, incredibly uncalled for, and shows how much of an entitled know-it-all Sarah is. Glad most people over there are on your side, but yeah, don't apologize when you did nothing wrong. Not an idiot. I'm disappointed in your wife. Enabling her racist sister and dad over her husband is not a good look. And with the edit, apparently Sarah can't keep her racist mouth shut anywhere and that consequence is on her. Please, for fuck's sake Opus, do not apologize. Sarah is racist. It may well have been a joke, but it was a freaking racist joke. I'd be goddamn livid that your wife is telling you to apologize. That is disgusting behavior from her, and she's saying that racism is acceptable, even when it's against someone she loves. At least there are some in her family who don't think racism is fine. I'd be scorched earth over this shot. Now for the next story. Am I an idiot for telling my son he deserved his GF breaking up with him? So my son had a long-distance girlfriend for about 2 years. She was great, a really nice girl, and we all loved her and welcomed her with open arms. She was flying here constantly to visit him, like a weekend a month, and he didn't lift a finger to go visit her. I tried talking to him about it several times and told him he should really start looking into flying over to her instead of expecting her to do all the traveling. He said no, and my wife probably had something to do with it as she constantly told him she was afraid of him flying. I spoke to them both and said this girl is great for him. She was willing to move over to our country too, but said there was one condition, and that was he'd have to fly over to her country too. Which is fair enough. He said no, he didn't want to fly or travel anywhere. My son was becoming lazier and lazier, eventually telling his GF and us that he was perfectly fine never traveling anywhere including holidays etc. Last week, he told us she dumped him. I went on her FB page as we're all still friends. She wrote us an apology letter about how she's upset it didn't work out, but these things happen, so we're on good terms, and looks like she's with a new guy already. Me and my wife have no doubt she was seeing him while still in a relationship with my son. I confessed to them both that I actually agree with her decision and he should have expected it. He did not treat her properly, and I hope he learns lessons for the next one because he needs to make more of an effort. I said he deserves it for his lack of effort in the relationship and for essentially just allowing this girl to spend all her money and time coming here all the time. Wife and son are very upset that I said this. Very upset, and my wife says I am being horrible. Am I an idiot? I stand by what I said. Not an idiot. That's the truth. What age is he? Edit. You say he's 24 in another comment. Definitely not an idiot. If he is this lazy and has no plans to travel, what's his plan for leaving the house? Living with parents is great to save money, but he doesn't seem the type so far to actually get up and get out eventually. Not an idiot. It's a truth he needs to hear. I'm more concerned about the reaction of your wife. Does she enable your son's laziness? Not an idiot. He's been too lazy with the relationship anyway. The girl deserves someone better, and your son needs to know that it takes effort to make a relationship work.